let's kick it off. Again, I encourage everyone as we go along, put your questions in the chat. We will be moderating those questions and we'll have time for questions and also discussion. We are here to service you. We're an extension of your teams. So I'm going to just start really, I think it's really important, and it's so important to understand, what does a location scout do? Good for us to really understand that. Also understand, how is the changing environment in that business landscape in the film industry, what's going on. Shane, can you just give us a few minutes intro and talk about what is it that you do day in and day out?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Shane Haden. I've been working in the film business for about 25 years at this point, and I'm a location manager. So my job is to hire all of the scouts, find all of the locations, deal with all of the permits, deal with the towns, deal with the day-to-day logistics that goes on to make a film shoot successful. And so that's a kind of like a brief little rundown of what our job entails. I currently work on a show called Your Friends and Neighbors that is a very popular show on Apple. I hope you guys are watching it and enjoying it. But what everything kind of starts with fundamentally is just the script. Everyone needs to realize that when we get a script, it kind of details all of the locations that we're going to be looking for and what we need, and it may give some kind of a brief description of what that location is. And then my job is to kind of interpret that along with the production designer, who's responsible for the look of the show, the cinematographer, the director, the producers, and all these various components come in to go into choosing a location. What's going to work best for each one of those team members goes into the selection. So I heard Sherry mention, she's like, oh, I lost my house to, another location. Actually, it's a very difficult thing to do because it can feel very personal when you don't get chosen. And it is not. There's so many factors that go into it. And typically what we try and do is give as many choices to a director as possible. So we may choose 3 or 4 different properties to go and look at. And obviously, we're only going to end up filming in one. So, a lot of that, you just to kind of be upfront, it's certainly not personal. There's many factors that go into why we choose a location and what works best for us. So don't take it personally. But the good thing about that is all the research and everything that we do, location managers like myself and Mike Hartel, who's also on this call, we do keep pretty extensive sites that have all of the research and all of the places that we've looked at. So we can constantly pull from those files to look and see what we need on the next project, or currently, or you hear a friend looking for something. And so we share, even though we're pretty adamant about keeping our stuff safe and password protected. And so your information isn't just out there floating around to anybody who wants it. We tend to share with each other and help each other, solve problems and come up with location solutions as we need to. So that's just kind of a basic introduction into what we do.
Thank you, Shane. Right. And I love that. Don't take it personal, because to your point, you're scouting multiple locations, really maybe even for that same scene, and kind of seeing how it works and work out. I think I can point out, Shane, your project, it's extremely popular. It is Westchester quintessential and all the different locations and backdrops of it. But you're also at one of the major soundstage here in Westchester County, which is really important. So in addition to our partners at Great Point, we also have 9 additional qualified production facilities, all on our website. Visit westchesterny.com/film. We have a whole microsite there. So I just want to point that out, that we are, in addition to our locations, we have our stages that also will come out, and those productions come out into our different and various neighborhoods for sure. Thank you, Shane, and we'll get back to you in a little bit. I'm going to ask Mike to join in, say hi, give a little bit of background. And Mike, you really have worked on quite a bit of different productions and a lot of time on the bigger episodics. And In addition, just giving a little bit about your backgrounds, I love to hear from you also. I think we talked about these misconceptions or these ideas of how, small businesses, how to work, and maybe even give an example of, a good project that we overcame here in Westchester.
Hi, thanks, Natasha. And Shane, I've never met Shane in person. It's so funny. We're such a small community, but now I know what he looks like. So
Yeah, that's right.
we're
Nice to see
similar with
you.
the beard and the glasses. I like it. It's the location manager look.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I guess so.
So I've worked on, I don't know, I'm the same as Shane. I've been in the business. This is my 27th year, which is weird to say. Doing this in New York and Connecticut and Westchester primarily, a lot in New York City. And I've done everything. I don't know, Sneaky Pete, the Big C. We were at FBI Most Wanted for 6 seasons, which was amazing. And we were in Westchester pretty much every week. And then now I'm on the Fall and Rise of Reggie Dinkins, which is a fun half-hour comedy, which is great. And it's been a lot of fun. And I think the biggest thing I would say for people, whether you're a business or you're a homeowner, is like you just if you have to roll with what we do. I mean, it's always sort of unorthodox, and we always have weird things happening. The show I'm on right now, I'm actually on a new show called Gordy, which is based on a book called Conviction, and we're shooting and we're in prep right now. And one of the places we're looking at is a home, and we're digging up the backyard. And the homeowner has to be like, okay with us doing things like that. So it's just like communicating, knowing that we're going to do some weird stuff. But the truth is, we always restore things the way they are. And I don't say that as it's only because we have to be welcome back. Everywhere we go, we always have to be welcome back. So if it's a business, if it's an appliance store, or if it's a restaurant, we don't want to not be welcome, because who knows in what capacity the script will show up, and there will be a scene 2 shows from now, 3 years later, and the owner will say, oh yeah, I had a bad experience. And that's kryptonite for us. So you just have to kind of be able to have the right temperament to roll with all these weird requests and things about, painting or changing or doing. And I think that's a really important factor in what we're looking for. And with, it's not just the business we're filming in, it's like the neighbors, it's all the people involved, because especially like in White Plains, which I filmed in a ton, they have a pretty comprehensive permitting system, and they have big meetings, and there's the parking department and the police department and the fire department. Everyone weighs in on what we're doing. And most of the towns in Westchester are very film friendly. And we gravitate toward the ones that are, the ones that don't want it. Is, of course, they don't have to have filming, but we sort of gravitate towards the ones that are streamlined process. Like, I don't know about Shane's job, but we generally have 8 days. We get a script, we do some scouting, and we have about 8 days to put an episode on its feet. So the timeline is very short, and we pick a house or we do things, and then things change, or they write it out, and then all of a sudden we don't need your house, or we need a restaurant instead. And it's a pretty fluid situation with regard to how we pick locations and prep and all those things. That it happens very rapidly, and it changes pretty dramatically sometimes. And we're always willing to change, to bend as much as we can, but then there are some situations where we can't. There's things like actor turnaround, like if you have a superstar, Harrison Ford or something in your show, and I think he gets a certain turnaround, and it's like it pushes your schedule around. And so the hours of the day, turnaround meaning from the time he goes home at night to the time he starts work in the morning. I'm not picking on Harrison Ford. He's the first superstar that I thought of. He gets a certain turnaround, and what it does is it creates an issue for us to when we can film and when we can't film because we don't have the actor. And so sometimes we have weird requests like, filming till 2 or 3 in the morning or something. And that's like, anyway, that's sort of
just
the
to
way
kind of
we go.
piggyback on what Mike's saying there, like my show in particular, one of the biggest challenges is that it is at night. Not to give a lot away, but there's a lot of stealing and stuff that's going on, and all of the show is at night in the summertime. So how many hours of night are there in the summertime? It doesn't get dark until 8:30 at night, and it starts to get light at 5 in the morning. So we really had to be careful and selective with the homes that we were finding and the neighborhoods that we were finding in order to do that, because nobody really wants to be inconvenienced that much. So we do things like, to bring in some of the other small business stuff. We do offer hotels to people that you may not even know are our guests that we're sending there, or we're paying for them to go. We're offering them meals, we're offering them places to go to kind of like alleviate some of the pressure that's put on the neighborhood, as well as compensation too. But it is one of those things that is especially challenging. As Mike said, we have this, we are like a mini city with all of these various departments that all need to work fluidly together. But the puzzle that you look at is very complicated. And it's, with the unions and the rules and everything else that goes into it, it's ever fluid, as Mike said, and ever changing.
Such good points, right? And I think might be a good place for us to kind of talk about, just for me to add, Westchester County Tourism and Film. As your film office here, our job really, Barry and I, are to take the calls from Shane and Mike, answer those questions, have your information and your resources available to us. So that is that quick turnaround. We're talking about timing, understanding our diverse in the 4 corners of Westchester in order for us to take in this business and support the industry and also make sure it's success. Because this is, Mike just said, and Shane, right? They've known of each other. They've never seen, it's a small industry overall. Many folks, it employs over, 3,100 jobs here in Westchester County. In addition to, and that's coming into our county, these are big sets. So Barry and I really want to work with you. We also intake all the calls and the questions and the inquiries coming in. Hey, we're scouting. We're literally on the corner of Mamaroneck Avenue. Is this, what municipality is this? Who's the contact at that municipality? Do you know the rules and the ordinances, and how do we work? We're respectful of our local municipalities. We're as good as we know the information to say it. And there is, we've worked in certain situations where there's already a big project taking place within that municipality, and working with the scouts, understanding what their needs are, kind of sharing and presenting some different solutions here within Westchester County. And we've been able and successfully to do that. I think that's important to know. We have a big section we have a special dedicated film section on Visit Westchester NY with resources for location scouts, Flickr image galleries, information about municipalities, intake forms, what questions to ask when speaking and talking about this industry is really important. As Mike mentioned, no questions. You got to be able to understand what the project is going to be entail. Shane talked about late nights. There could be variances in certain ordinances. So even as a small business, communicating with your local municipality that this is something of interest and this is something that you're working with in your property or destination, and having that allows us to continue to build on this. I also think one of the, we talked about the flexibility and the fluid of that. It'd be great, either Mike or Shane, and then we're going to go to talk to some of our small businesses. Is there, around that, yes, being nimble, but sometimes there's disruptions to business. I don't know if anyone wants to take that. I mean, Shane, the show itself has gone to so many different small businesses throughout, many, of course, who love that, to showcase that on social media after the fact, because we don't want to give anything away. But love to talk, if you could just share with us some best practices.
I certainly think that, like, we understand that there is an intro, and there's so many different scales of projects as well. You get a project, like Mike and I are working on that are fairly big budget projects. They've got some money, so they're able to like do the work the way that it needs to be done. And then you have smaller projects that may not have the money to be able to do it in the same way. So one of the things, like for instance, we film in Rye, and we have established like Purchase Street as being one of kind of the central street in our neighborhood on the show. And that's challenging. You've got a ton of small businesses that are all downtown. That when we take over, it's challenging because there is an interruption. There's excitement as well. And people, that's one of the nice things about filming in Westchester County, is that people are still interested in filming and seeing it, and participating and watching and participating in the actual shows as well. But we tend to like go and try and be very cognizant of those businesses, and give them a little compensation for that loss of business. Now it's hard because you have various business with various kinds of interference, and we try and be kind of uniform as much as we can with each of the businesses. But we also run into situations where we get owners that, to be frank, can get a little greedy, can get like they just want to be a cog in our machine. They're like, no, you're going to interrupt me for an hour. I want $5,000 for that hour, and their business may not have that. So it also, like, even though I've never met Mike before, we talk all the time. Like, we've had several conversations, we've sorted problems out together. We all communicate. And so it's really trying to just remember that we're doing our job. I think it's important for the film business to recognize the impact that we do have on those small businesses. And if we are going to interfere, like, you should get compensated for that time. If somebody can't walk in your store, we try and be as accommodating as possible. We try and get people through. Like, really the only time that we need complete control is when we're rolling, when that camera is going and the actors are performing. When they're not, there's always time to get people in or out. It just may be a little more inconvenient than it would on a typical day. But there also could be more people that are down there watching, and you have more foot traffic than you would on a typical day as well. So you have to realize that there is a little bit of a give and a take, and patience, and reasonable demands and requests are important. But we do recognize that, like, there is an effect to businesses, and hopefully we're on projects that can, offer some compensation and stuff for those businesses.
Yeah,
Thank you, Shane. I think that's great. This is tourism and film, and we do talk about screen tourism and the impact of seeing these destinations and building local pride. And we've certainly have seen the positive impact of that with shows like yours, Shane, Gilded Age, Reggie Dickens. I mean, on, and those numbers, we've done a good job with showcasing and showing those numbers. And also for all of us, that we're one big macro ecosystem to make this made up of all of our cities, towns, small businesses, etc., that really are moving and advancing Westchester as a film destination. I want to take the opportunity now to introduce Robert Venuti, excuse me, of Carmine's Deli. Where are you? Here on my screen. And just,
yep. Hi, Robert.
Hey, Mike.
Hi. How you doing? Let's talk. Introduce yourself and how you work through as a small business and being a location scout. Most recently with Reggie Dinkins.
Hi, guys. My name's Robert Venuti. I am the owner of Carmine's Italian Deli Cafe in Elmsford, New York. And, as far as dealing with, like, the two guys you just told, Mike and Shane, they are 100% correct. As a business owner, you have to look at two things, in my opinion. You're going to get some advertisement out of this, which we have, and you're going to get compensated as long as you don't get too greedy. And you work with everyone, just like you're working together at the deli, putting the catering to get the order. It's called harmony with your new employer for a day or two. And it is quite amazing to see how it works. And Mike had mentioned something about the permits with the towns. and I won't mention the towns, but some of them, give you a hard time. And I can tell you right now that Elmsford was, in my opinion, the way they handled it was very good, easy, because we want life to be easy and harm it. And then you get the show, what are you fighting about, or asking for too much? So those were the two things that came out of it for me. And I really enjoyed, I was there the whole day from 4 in the morning. They wanted breakfast. The dress, I forget this, the dress union. They were great people. They had so much energy. Then they're like, "Hey, Rob, where's a good place around here to get some breakfast?" I was like, "Well, I don't know. I mean, you don't want me to start cooking. I'm not going to make a lot of noise." They were like, "No, go ahead. You can cook." So I went back there, made eggs and stuff for everyone. We kind of bonded. I really had a fun time with, with everyone that was there. And then, of course, I got to meet Tracy Morgan, and I got to feed him. A regular guy. Everyone's a person, you know, but everyone was excited. And like I said, don't get greedy, look at the future, and be harmonious. That would be my suggestion to any other one who gets approached.
Thank you. And I think, Robert, a lot of your success also, and we've talked about this, or folks might have heard me talk about this before, is really understanding that business. You're saying they wanted breakfast. That time might not have been. Production days are 12 plus hours a day. It could be overnight. They start super early. It is a massive undertaking for the episodic, the movies. But, we've seen an increase in commercial work here. It's even a quicker time around, turnaround time on the commercial world, and some photo shoots that still use the backdrops on that. And it could be a deli, but also then one of our bigger institutions like SUNY Purchase, and a school or a nonprofit. And it would be great to be seen on the screen, but sometimes camping, facilities for base camps, those are really important, and that it helps this industry as a whole. And I would love to just take 2 minutes or a few minutes. You don't have 2 minutes. You have more than 2 minutes, Kristen, our great partner at SUNY Purchase, just to talk about, because you're a huge institution with students and some other tenants there, and you've been able to make it work to success. If you could share with us a little bit of how you do that.
Yeah, awesome. Hi, everybody. Kristen here from SUNY Purchase. We've had filming all year long, all semester, actually. The spring semester, we have students. We just had commencement on Friday, and all semester long, we've had base camps happening. We've had filming in our academic spaces. The biggest thing, and I think one is like knowing your assets, right? Like we have 2 massive parking lots that can fit about 800 cars each. So that has been really helpful for us because we could take off one half of one and do a base camp easily on our campus. But I think the biggest thing for us has been the communication. I'm not just communicating with our facilities and our campus police. I'm having to communicate with our student population, our faculty, our staff. We have Broadview Senior Living Facility on our campus. It's making sure they know that there might be some disruptions on campus or some extra traffic that we always welcome. So I think that's been the biggest thing, and how I've been able to make it work all year long is that communication, over communication. And then sometimes things change, right? I think Shane and Michael have identified that sometimes they don't use your location, and that's okay. I'd rather communicate on the onset and have to tell people, oh, just kidding, we're not going to have this happen on this day. It's going to be that day. I'd rather do that than not tell anybody what's happening at all, and then just everyone be surprised. So yeah, we've been able to make it work all academic year because of that over communication that we've been able to do. So it's been great having base camps, catering, holding, and then active filming in even our academic spaces. But that's been the key, the communication.
Thank you. Communication is really important. It goes back to, and that includes asking questions and understanding what is the schedule. We had one incident recently where it was like, well, I wanted any and all. Any and all is really vague. How about I wanted to schedule a load in? What does it mean to load in? What does it mean to wrap up? It's just not only the location filming day. And really kind of taking that in and how that impacts your business. And any questions at all, Barry and I are here to help you. And Sherry's a great person. she'll text me all hours and say, so-and-so has a question, and we want to, because we want this, and this is important for Westchester County. I can't stress that enough. I also, a kind of a different spot, talk about deli, a school, a bridal shop. I mean, I thought this is fascinating. I really applaud Maribel and how you've been able to be a spot and a location for several productions. So Maribel Diaz, say hi, wave, and just share with us a little bit about your experience so we can all learn from you.
Sure. My experience has been wonderful. I think that we've filmed some quite interesting series, and the people we've worked with have been super professional. And for the most part, our clients, when we tell them if we can move over an appointment because there's a film coming in, they're pretty excited about it. All they usually ask is, "What are they filming? I want to watch it after it's filmed." So it's and they leave the place, I want to say, if not the same, sometimes even better than we handed it over. Everything is clearly communicated. We've enjoyed being part of the process, and we're all on board for it. We really enjoy when a film company comes in. It's actually pretty exciting for just the people in the town and customers, and even for ourselves. We love to see this incredibly immense production. I don't even know to this day how they can organize every single detail with so many different teams. And to think that they come in and, they'll take everything down and set up for the shoot, and by the third day they're down again. It's unbelievable the amount of work that goes in, and how it's done to perfection, down to like every single detail. It's really impressive to watch.
Thank you, Maribel. And also, I mean, how did that impact with your hours of your shop? Did you close your shop? How did that work for you?
We did close our shop. It was communicated well in advance. That is something that we did request, just to be respectful of appointments and things that are set up. We were able to have enough time to reach out to our customers first to make sure that everything was okay with them. It was not a problem. For the most part, our schedules were all able to kind of work all the details out together. And it was fine. They emptied out the store. They were very careful with our gowns. We have very expensive gowns in the store, and they were extremely careful how they were handled, taking them out and rearranging everything, bringing in new furniture. I mean, it's really amazing to watch. But it was a good experience for us, and our clients were okay with it. They were actually excited about it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad it was a good experience, and it is a lot of work, for sure. And I think also, the production wants it to be successful. I think Mike and Shane both mentioned that we don't want to have bad experiences. It is a big undertaking. Even if it is a small production, it's still going to impact and be an undertaking for you. But we want it to be successful. This industry wants it to be a success. They, I think Shane had said there's multiple pieces in the puzzle, and if one thing's not working, then there's a whole, cause and effect there. So to have that communication. Go ahead, Maribel.
No, I just wanted to, because our location is it's a pretty much a landmark bank. So there's a lot of, beauty in it too, that there was concern, is there a film company going to come in? Is it going to destroy any of this stuff? But no, they were super careful and really understood our concerns. We really, wanted it to be handled carefully because we chose the space because of it. And we love a lot of things about it. We have vaults, a lot of Art Deco on the walls, but everything was handled with the utmost care. And there was a lot of clear communication all along the way. Nothing was ever a surprise. And it was harmonious, as one of your guests said. Absolutely harmonious. It was very nice.
Not to put a spin on this, but I'm glad that it went very smoothly. But there are obviously times where it is not as smooth as well, and something does happen, or there is damage, and that is another time that we also need a little bit of patience and consideration. Obviously, we try and do our best to make sure that your place doesn't get damaged, that there is nothing that happens. But inevitably, maybe there's a scratch on the floor, there's like a little ding in the wall. No, we will make it right. Like, as Mike and I said, we can't do our jobs unless, we can come back to locations and fix it. So there is, when you have that many people traveling around, things do happen, so
Mhm.
you, maybe somebody like at a home, the truck went over the lawn or something. Well, as quickly as we can get, somebody out there to do the repair or to fix it, we will, and I just wanted to bring that up, that, like, again, it's not for everybody. If you're very, like, you've curated your shop to this perfect thing that is expressing who you are, and we come in and say, you know what, this is great, but we're going to take everything out and we're going to rearrange it, like, maybe film production isn't quite for you. If it's going to cause you more anxiety than you need, you look at the numbers and you go, wow, that's a lot of money, I want the money. But if you have to think about the personality as well. And so when you're asking yourself, is, film production right for me, you really have to think about, individually, what that, are you able to let things go, are you able to do it, or do you need to have the control and tightness? Because if that's the case, then maybe it's not the right fit necessarily for you, and there's nothing wrong with saying it doesn't work.
Yeah. Shane, you just reminded me there was one shoot where we had a carpet ripped. But
Yeah.
we're pretty real. You have to be, like you say, you have to be realistic. For us, we know there's a lot of people coming in. There's a lot of things happening within those 3 days, and it was replaced. I mean, and the work, it was done correctly. They hired a professional company to do it, and so for us, it's been a good experience. It's like you say, you have to go in knowing it's not, things can happen. I think what matters is that whatever does happen is taken care of professionally in the correct way.
And quickly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Yeah,
No, that's a
absolutely.
really good addition, and thank you, and thank you, Maribel, for joining us
Welcome.
and sharing, your experiences. What is Shane and Mike? And I can see Mike's in action, so he's actually, I think, in a car doing location scouting as we are going on. There you go. There's the van. That's what to expect on a site visit or a tech scout. So it is happening. Thank you, Mike, for joining us again. But Shane, Mike, what are some of the ways that, in addition to being in touch with us here in the film office, that small businesses can stay engaged or help promote? Is it a link on their site? When you start searching things that, film friendly, this is what, I always encourage everyone to send us photos and have photos, but I'd love to hear from you. I mean, this is what you do, and you have teams that are doing it and doing the research.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, like, reaching out to the Westchester County Film Commission, I mean, really getting photos out there. You have a unique historical space. You think that your property is interesting, anything that you can do. And it's important for the county to, like, stay up to date on that and keep them up to date, because, sometimes, depending on who's in charge, some counties get really, oh, we're going to make this all filming, and then nothing's been updated in, 10 years. And you look at the site and you're like, well, that's not going to get me anything. But if there is an active participation and people do reach out, then, you'll have a list of the recent filming managers and everything in your office. You can always reach out. Hey, Shane, Mike, this person reached out. I mean, the thing that I come back to is it's hard to, like, promote. It's hard because it, again, all comes from the script, and so you can change things, but it's like the bridal shop, like, that's a very specific thing that you're looking for. So there's only going to be so many bridal shops, and you're going to go and scout them, and then make your choice of and it comes into, like, location and where we are on that day, and to make, the day work for us that's just one of the things that needs to fall into place for the location to work. But I think getting the county to know, hey, these people are interested in filming, and that information being passed down to the managers who actually make the decisions and where to go, like, that is a key element in making it successful, I think. Because you could have, for instance, certain communities, Bronxville maybe is a little more challenging. Scarsdale can be a little more challenging. Like, there's beautiful locations there that we would love to, be a part of and film. And unfortunately, like, the town restrictions make it so difficult that it's hard to plug that into our schedule. when we're so limited. So like, yes, there are times that we can make that location, we want it that bad. We're going to say, okay, we can only shoot this from, you know, between 8 and 5, and that's what the town mandates, and we can make this work because we want it. But a lot of times we don't have that flexibility. So you just have to understand, like, there's the towns and that, restrictions weigh into a lot of the choices as well from our end.
Yeah, good
Yeah,
point. And
I was gonna
Mike.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I mean, unfortunately, on a TV schedule, we just have to avoid certain. We can't put ourselves in a situation where we get down the road and then something changes or it cancels, and we have to shift gears, that's what we have to avoid. So certain things, like, sure, there are lots of nice places in Scarsdale, but I can't risk with 8 days. I can't risk like being caught up where it's like the town goes, nah, we're not interested, and we've fallen in love with a house or a restaurant or something like that. And I think that's fixable ultimately if we can work with the town and they can figure out what makes, and maybe they just don't want it, and that's okay too. But if they do want to entertain filming, or if there are businesses in Scarsdale or wherever, or Bronxville, or that want to entertain filming, then we should endeavor to get the businesses to petition a little bit to the people in the town. But the one thing I wanted to say was that if you have a bridal shop, or we'll find you. I mean, you can reach out to Barry and Natasha, who are always they seem to work. I can call them pretty much 24 hours a day and they answer the phone. But I would say if you want to get on a list or get noticed, let them know and they'll reach out to us, which is great. And then once you're in the world, once you're in the database, then you're there. But we'll find the bars, the restaurants, and all that. It's the unique places that are, it is the out of the way. And just as an example, up in Rockland County, there's a guy who has a farm that is just like off the beaten path in the woods, kind of like a place that he's built over years. And he has a unique pond that he can block and fill. He has a stream that he can block and fill and make a huge pond in his backyard. And I was talking to Laura Benson, who's a producer on Blacklist, or was the producer on Blacklist, and they found that place just by happenstance. And they needed to have a car drive into the water. And this situation is so unique that he can dam up his yard and fill it with water, that it worked for this. And it's like those unique things that we'll never find unless it's something, if you have some unique piece of property, you should let the county know, whether it's a store, whether it's got an interesting basement, an interesting attic, whatever it is, because those are the pieces that you can't see from the outside or you don't know. And those are hugely helpful because we have no idea what's going to come in the next script. And then sometimes something comes and you're like, how am I going to find Vietnam in Westchester or something like that? But you have a cool, interesting, whatever it might be that would help us make that happen. And I think that's really big and important to just get those little nooks and crannies and secret places out into the open a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. And Mike, we have a lot of farms here in Westchester, and we have unique farms. Yes. And joining us today is our farm Lita. How are you? I know you've done some filming and you have an amazing alpaca farm.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we have beautiful property outside, about 40 miles north of the city, where we have alpacas and Icelandic horses and a mammoth donkey and all kinds of gardens and stuff. And so we've done, some pretty unique productions. Lately, much of our filming has been more fashion shoots and music videos, but we have had some TV production here. And sometimes it's with the animals, and other times they're just interested in the property because it's a beautiful, beautiful property. Rolling hills and groves and meadows and flower fields and such. Yeah.
I think Lita brings up a good point, like, being a little bit further. So there's, just to make everybody aware, there's a zone, yeah, a 30-mile zone, if you don't know that this exists. And it basically goes from Columbus Circle in the city. And we operate within that zone, or we try to, and it goes all the way to New Jersey and Long Island, Staten Island. It kind of cuts through this big circle. And unfortunately, once we get outside of that circle, it gets prohibitively expensive sometimes, depending on the production, to travel their crew. Everybody goes into overtime, everybody gets mileage and distant pay, and it becomes a lot more expensive. Now, just because you live in that zone doesn't mean that you're not going to get selected. There's also been the state has put together a significant tax incentive to encourage filming in those areas as well. So just if you're outside of there, you should still participate, as Lita just said. A lot of times fashion shoots and commercials and some of those smaller productions, they don't need to play within those rules, so they can go to the farm, that's a little bit further away because it's beautiful or for whatever reason that it works. But just so you know, this exists, and it does weigh in to how we decide where we're going and what we're doing. You can be like, Armonk is the top part, like just outside of Armonk is kind of where our zone ends, at least on this. So, if there's a restaurant on the other side of that line and there's a restaurant on, the New York closer city side of the line, we're going to choose the one that keeps us in our zone, as we call it.
Yeah, that's understood. And we realize that's limited some things, but because, we offer some very unique things that you can't find closer to the city. I mean, we did have a big production here with CBS a few years ago, huge production for 2.5 weeks, but it was because we offered something that they couldn't find within that zone.
Absolutely. There's times that we have to go outside the zone.
Yeah.
We, as Mike was just saying, we ended up needing to do a similar thing with a car. And, in a lake, I had to go to Lake Harriman to be able to get the piece that we needed, even though, it's outside of the zone. If you have a unique farm or you have a unique location, obviously you're going to have to, cough up the money and travel your crew to that location. But I just wanted people, as a general note, just to understand that the 30-mile zone exists, because a lot of people are unaware of it.
Yeah, thank you, Shane. I neglected to mention that also as part of the business that we do. We've just please drop your questions in the chat for sure. We're going to try to get as much as we can through it. I just want to mention, we on Westchester Film site, we have connections to the municipalities. We have all the permitting different towns, cities, hamlets, villages, as well as then a Westchester County intake form. And we encourage the location scouts, even if it's not within a county property, put it in there so that we can then share it with the various businesses as a lead or a municipality and kind of get that conversation going. Keep that in mind. We have resource guides on there. We work with New York State Film Office with their resource guides, their vendor list. We have lists of minority women-owned businesses. And et cetera. So there is, again, where I mentioned Westchester's, we are big, there is a big ecosystem. And on the macro level, there's a lot of we have quarterly newsletters that are specific for the scouts, specifically on new sites or new venues of what's happening, or a good case study of what worked really well, and taking up questions within the industry. We're very actively involved on LinkedIn with the industry, Westchester County Film on Instagram. So we are creating these assets in these channels to help facilitate and promote Westchester and your locations. I know we have a couple of restaurants in place. Send us pictures. What's your loading dock? What's your in? What are your hours? What's that information? A lot of times I need your cell phone number. We talked about, early morning breakfast. If that's an opportunity, it may be a business outside of your normal hours, and understanding that. So we really are here to help. I do want to ask one question of the scouts before we get off. We get a lot of calls, and we have our higher educations here of, is there we're talking about workforce development or ways that students can get involved with the industry. It's a lot of questions that come up. I won't mention SUNY Purchase, but again, a good example of an institution that has that, Pace University, Iona. Any insights on that?
You mean as far as getting a job, sort of getting into
Yeah,
the
or just, I
industry?
mean, we get a lot of questions.
It's it's tough. They've kind of, the intern programs have kind of died because of just, there's a massive corporations now running
Yeah.
all the studios, and they don't really, the intern thing didn't really work out well because of some litigation years ago, and so that that avenue has kind of closed up. However, you know getting a job, I mean, office PA, or a unit PA, which is pretty much the low guy in the totem pole. Those are non-union jobs that you just have to get your name out there and stop by the production office or send in a resume, and just let them know that you want to get a job, and that's the best way. The problem is, unless you went to USC film school as a cinematographer or something, you're going to have to start at the bottom, working in the office, an art department PA or locations PA, and then kind of work your way up. And I think the toughest part is breaking in the first time, and then once you're in, you're in. And it means standing on a set for 14 hours or 12 hours and just being there and doing that. And that the best way to do it is just to get the ear of somebody. If you walk by a production, bring a resume to the key PA or to the second AD, and that'll help you get in. At least get started.
Yeah, that in person sometimes really works, right? For sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Lisa, any question that I might have missed, or do you want to? Just want to make sure. How can we bid on jobs to scout locations? I mean, I think we've talked about that, making sure you're on all the resource guides. If you have a unique story, we're happy to consider and highlight you on our social media or our newsletter. Lisa?
We just had one come in about, and I don't know if the scouts can take this, about average rates for parking, for base camps, things like that. It's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Shane, just before that, one of the things, that's a big question. And Shane, just so you know how I answer it, so then maybe you can help me, tell me.
Sure.
We always recommend for businesses to look at the scale and the size. And I think that, is it 50, 75 people crew? Is it an episodic, a movie, or commercial, and the impact on the business? So Shane, tell me, am I reading them right in a way?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, it's obviously it's got to work for both people involved. So if I'm going to a church and they're not in use for during the week, and I offer them $2,500 to park my cars there, or $1,500 to park my cars there, that's probably worth it for them. But if I'm going to go to SUNY Purchase and say, hey, $1,500, and you're going to have all of this, complex rearrangement and everything, well, it's not really going to be worth it there. But rates always vary. They're all negotiable. We do our best to be fair to everybody, so it's hard to just throw numbers out there, because what may be worth it for you is not worth it for somebody else. So it's like the same when I'm dealing with homes. We shoot in mansions that expect a certain amount of money, and I go to a regular, maybe a more moderate house, and they're going to have a different expectation. So it's really, it's all a negotiation, and it kind of works. You have to figure out what works for you, and then figure out if that also works for the film company.
Yeah, good. And also, one of the things I know for us and within our county properties is really covering the staff time if needed. Whether if it's a big scale project and we need a coordinator, because we don't, if it's at a park, we don't close down for say the park. It's open to residents, and taking that into consideration. If it's an overnight for security, and if it's displacement of an art exhibit or an exhibit at a historic home, and taking all of those things into consideration. Sometimes if you don't think of it that way, what I've discovered from my experience is it builds frustration, like, oh, the production should have known. And I think to Shane said, we don't know if you don't tell us, and we have that communication and that open dialogue. We're going to be respectful of everyone's time. I thank you. This is makes my job more exciting for me to get up and do this every day and answer these calls at any time, because we have the interest and the support of our small businesses. And as our partners on this is just a quick slide where to find us, and our services that we do. And we're really, I keep saying it, we are in sales and service. We're making sure that we're understanding what our product is, our destinations, what we can offer, and facilitating and making it a success for Westchester County. We will be releasing our economic impact numbers for 2025 shortly, so stay tuned with that. We'll do a follow-up, everyone that joined us, with some tips, some kind of key summaries, and I hope to see you all soon and work with you and enjoy this beautiful weather. It's summer today. So here we are, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shane, Mike. Thank you to our small businesses that participated, and to all of our tourism partners. Really appreciate you all, and look forward to the next show. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Goodbye.